to MRC Tier 3. Here we are live for a slightly delayed, is a very sunny Portugal circuit. We're glad everybody's been able to come back for this one. Big apologies for the problems we had last time, but it just means that these drivers will have that extra time to practice and put their skills to the test. And with me, I've got a man who, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here at all. He started it as a little baby league. In round 1, there was only 20 drivers. We filled the grid. I came in round 2, and now we are in season 10 with 4 tiers of racing. It is, of course, the one and only Martin Hills. Martin, how are you doing tonight?
Good evening, Rob. I'm glad to hear you apologise, because it was all your fault last time when this went wrong.
Oh, I'm sure it was. What did I do?
It definitely was. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, look, I'm British. My default mode is that I'm going to apologise for everything. So, yeah, I will continue
on
to
this
do that.
occasion, quite right too.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Yeah, I'm just going to call it as it is.
Yeah, no, well, it's lovely to have you in the commentary box. I think we were mentioning earlier privately that this is the first time that we have been together in the commentary box. And yeah, it'll be nice to see how he worked tonight. Portugal's always a really fascinating circuit, isn't it? So let's see how our drivers deal with the challenge. What I'm going to do is... Oh no, Michael Watts has gone for a wander, so I was just about to go on a quick lap. Just lined him up. Who should we line up on a quick lap? We've got a Red Bull, we've got Baby Hornet going to lead us round. So let's take you on a lap of this, I'm not going to call it wonderful, but of this Portugal circuit as we're flat out as we head towards the line. That flaps open and we go down into turn 1. Now this is a really tricky corner. You'll see quite a few people, I think, invalidate here. You're going to look for about the 50 mark, book it in right, avoid that sausage curve on the right. He's done very well there. Avoid that sausage curve, work that white line there, and then go into this right-hander. Then you're into turn 4. It's off camber. It's a left. It's horrible. It's pulling you out to the right and into the DRS zone. Baby Hornet able to keep the car under control out to this downhill hairpin. So you break a little bit earlier than you think. You carry quite a lot of speed there. There's all the runoff area on the right. And then you're into turn 7, which you really have to hook it in. Keep as much speed, because you're going to need it, as you do not want to touch the throttle very much at all, as you tiptoe through that turn 8, which is so good at spitting out the rear end of the car. Then you're into this roller coaster section where you can see the track really works up and down, and there's so many blind apexes. You put it into that right, then it's into this left hand. The track will be up and upwards. You're looking for that white mark on the left as your braking point. Hook it in, and then into what I think is actually one of the most important corners on the circuit. It's all about trying to keep as much speed and traction through here as possible, because then it's pedal to the metal flat out as you go through this other sort of weird off-camber right-hander. Going to carry as much speed across the line. Let's see what time up with Baby Hornet. There's a 1:19.4, very nice banker lap. Let's see if anybody can match that as we go on early. Night Shadow already beating it with an 19.2. So yeah, good match between the two.
Yeah, I mean the top 3 are already stupidly close together there, so this votes kind of similarly to what we saw last time, doesn't it? I seem to remember that when we were racing in Portugal, when it all went wrong, I seem to remember the field was quite tight spread.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a track that lends itself to being quite tight spread. I don't know what the best setup is around here. I struggle with it a lot, and I don't know if that's just because it's one that relies on you having a lot of traction, making sure you've got the perfect traction out corners. Too little and you go quite slow. Too much, or like being too tentative on the loud pedal and you go quite slow. But if you give it a bit too much beans, it's so easy to just lose the back end and just lose your entire lap round here. It's why I really struggle. But what do you think about the track as a whole?
I kind of feel like the setup has to, whatever you go with, you've got to be able to get a good exit out of the last 2 corners to be able to set yourself up down the straight, because it's primarily the main overtaking spot in the race. I mean, there are other places where you can sneak one through if if someone makes a mistake, but if it's normal running and the other driver is doing quite nicely, then really your only chance is into turn 1, and even that is a little bit iffy. So you need to get a good advantageous exit out of the final 2 corners, so that you can get them on DRS before you get to turn 1. But to be able to do that, you need to have both a pointy enough front end to be able to do that kind of long off-cambered right-hander, which is the final corner. But also, because it's off-cambered, you need to have some rear-end stability as well, because as we often see, lots of people spin in that last corner when they're on full throttle.
Yes.
So it's I think I seem to remember I kind of went medium-ish downforce for this one with a fairly understeery bias to make sure that I can definitely get the power out of that final corner.
I think that sounds right. It is one corner, but you're right. It makes up such a big part of the circuit that you don't want to compromise yourself through there. And as you said, the only one real overtaking zone means that you have to make the most of it. Going back to sort of, I'm going to pick on him again, I always do, but Gav with his famous 0-1 setup. So if you can get the right setup that gives you a good run out of that last corner, then you can create a bit of a trolley train behind you in the race. And it's another place as well. I think another aspect of this circuit that makes it so interesting is that we don't tend to get a lot of safety cars around here. There are others where you kind of think one's guaranteed. We've just done Monza, and that always throws up a few because I think the track is so fast and the barriers are relatively close. You'll see a lot of people lose it in a wall. Around here, the runoff areas are so sort of wide that you will lose it. You'll lose 22nd on a lap, but you won't necessarily bin it and cause the safety car to come out. So consistency.
Yeah, if there's going to be a safety car, it's normally out of is it turn 4, isn't it? The left-hander off camber uphill.
Yes. Yeah, it's sort of spear into the inside wall.
Yeah. I think when we did have safety cars, gosh, is it 3 weeks ago that we had this race now? It is, isn't it?
Yes, it's a long time.
4 weeks ago. It's 4 weeks ago.
So
we've had we're in the second week off.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, no, you're right. Yes, this is a big gap, isn't it? We've had blame the king.
So yeah, no, I mean that's it. I think when we did have safety cars in that week's racing, it was due to mainly people. Again, rear end stability. That's another important corner for it. So, and again, another one to dictate your setup to a little bit. And also, I guess you're better off with a lower on throttle diff as well, just to give you that slow speed exit.
Yeah, I've found that there's a lot of setups use it quite high or quite different. I found I actually succeeded most around here in wet weather conditions because the on throttle diff is so different. I was able to suddenly master it in the drive. It's absolutely pants. Let's just see Bagnazo going over across the line on his first quick lap of the night. Let's see where he comes. Or did he invalidate? I think he invalidated, unfortunately. So still in 14th place. Connor, there we go. We were seeing 119.2s at the start, and Connor's been on a great run of form recently, winning the last two races here in certainly the last two races in the championship in Mexico and Italy. He's just put it on top again with a 118.6. Impressive. Really showing him there.
My timing is way behind. It took him till turn 4 until that showed up on my screen.
Oh, so, wow, okay.
Hopefully that's not going to continue, but we will see. Good evening to Mark Hodgson. He says hello, so does Scottish Ninja. So good to see some people in the chat. So if there are other people who are listening and watching, please get involved and say hello.
Yeah, just put your... I usually always ask about like your favourite memories of a track, but Portugal's an odd one, seeing as this track in particular I think was only on the circuit for about on the F1 circuit for about 2 years, but that doesn't mean that it's the only Portuguese Grand Prix that springs to mind. One in particular springs to mind for me, which is Jerez in 1997.
Yes,
possibly
the bumper cars incident.
Yeah, or possibly that weekend might go down as one of the maddest in racing. If you don't know what we're talking about, look it up on YouTube. I know it feels a bit odd considering that it was Gilles Villeneuve who ended up the eventual champion. I know he's not everybody's sort of favourite romantic champion when they think back to great F1 drivers, but
you mean Jacques?
Jacques, sorry, Jacques Villeneuve. Sorry if I said Gilles.
His dad was never champion, weirdly. Even
yes.
Though probably, arguably a better driver.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that totally. But yeah, look it up on YouTube. Pole was 3 drivers setting exactly the same time down to the 100th of a second. And that was actually something they were referring to a lot in last weekend's race, wasn't it? Because it wasn't two of the drivers at the same quali time, didn't they? Yes, I think it was right up at the top, was it? I think it was a Ferrari and a Red Bull that did it, but because Max had gone first, obviously because the track doesn't rub it in as much, they give it to the person who went out first on track rather than anybody else. So let's see if we've got any drivers out there who might do that tonight. at the moment it's quite a sizable gap Connor's got between the top 3 there with 0.4 seconds. I'm just going to keep on board, or maybe Nightshadow's having a couple of internet issues, or fingers crossed the lobby, or it's got very twitchy out of that corner. Let me see if I can find somebody who isn't pinging around the track like a ping pong ball for us to focus on and an outrider. On an outlap.
Well, we've got the bottom 4 on the timing screen at the moment are all just heading out to set their first times. They haven't actually set times yet. So Boothie, Ant Stoke, 38 and Mutts Nuts are all... Ant Stoke has just spun, as I said. Literally, as I said his name, he literally catapulted himself back across. Yes,
I saw that. So we will skip firmly away from that. We'll stick on board with 38, who's on his outlap. Driving, of course, tonight for Ferrari. Let's see how he does. As he winds up, I wanted to talk to you a bit because we've got... This is a game that is coming into its sunset time, isn't it? We've got the new F1 23 game on the horizon. A few little bits and pieces we've got out of that today, and you had a chance to... I didn't have the opportunity to, but you've driven the beta. How does it feel? How does the handling model feel? How different is it compared to the current F1 game?
In my opinion, it's very significantly different in terms of the way it feels, and very significantly better.
Oh, good.
In terms of the way it feels as well. It's just more. It just feels more drivable. I know that sounds a very simplistic word, but what I mean by that is it certainly lets you run no traction control much more easily. It's still tricky, but it's much easier than it was. I would say it's like medium traction controllers at the moment, plus say 15%. So it's not that much different to how it is now. But I was finding that with medium traction control switched on, so tried it both sort of on no assists and also on some assists. With medium traction control on, it does this little thing where the back end, you can feel it skipping around. It corrects itself into a straight line, but it skips around, so it actually loses you time.
Okay.
So I think the idea is probably that if you apply it gradually and gently, you'll get a similar feeling to no TC. But if you over-egg it, it will punish you by slowing you down slightly.
I think that's what you want the game to do, isn't it? I know we've had countless discussions on sort of like just casually about the difference between assists and no assists, and some people think, medium TC gives you such an advantage. I think you want it where, as it was, where if you run no traction control, that was the way that you gave the advantage. That's certainly why I moved to it and found it more rewarding, because you've got the maximum control over that, and when you put too much throttle down and you lose the back end, you say, hey, that's on me, that's my fault. I always felt that this F1 22 game was maybe a little bit too unforgiving on that, and if it makes the cars more drivable, as you say, then that's got to be a good thing.
And certainly more raceable, I would say, without traction control as well, because you know that you can push it that little bit harder. The other thing that I did notice that was significantly different is that you can definitely use the curbs a lot more easily, which has been a bugbear of a lot of people with the current game.
Yeah.
Especially exit curbs. Exit curbs, you can definitely get on the power with no traction control fairly confidently. So using say Monza from sort of the last race that we had. That exit out of the first chicane where there's the curb on the left. That one's quite tricky with no traction control in the current game to be able to get on the power quickly, which you need to have that. With the new game, you can get straight on power.
Excellent.
The ABS seems less. It's still tricky. I'd say it's slightly less tricky, but also when you are running the ABS, it seems to extend your braking distance a bit as well. So
okay.
Arguably, there's some improvement there, because obviously it's still definitely harder, a lot harder with no ABS. I was racing online with Simba the other night, and he was running ABS, and I wasn't, and I couldn't stay within half a second a lap of him. So,
right.
But I would say that he and I are probably fairly similar in terms of pace. So
yeah.
The ABS definitely is a big advantage still, and there was actually a feedback questionnaire today, which that was actually part of the feedback which I gave them, because they did actually ask specific questions about different aspects of handling, about what you thought of it.
Oh, excellent! So when that's changed in the final game, we can attribute that to you directly. That's good to know.
Yeah, I said that traction control, no traction needs to be much harder. ABS needs to be harder. The AI needs to be more aggressive, and the curbs are too easy. That was what I said.
Okay, awesome. It's good to know that the future is bright and that Martin is leading us, leading development as well as the leadership of MRC in the background. Just to say that was an excellent lap from Jackster in the Mercedes going top there with a 1:18.5. Time is running out in this session as Connor and our second place and third place drivers are out on what will be their final laps. So I might just stick with, we've got Connor who's leading out the train and then Night Shadow behind. Let's just see what he can do, if he can respond and put it back on the front row, or are we going to see more cars as this track really starts to rubber in, get those times down and challenge more in that sort of 18.5 region.
Of course, I'm just realising that Boothie and Nuts have both got a qualifying ban tonight, haven't they?
Okay, that's why they're at the bottom there. And Stoke, who was very quick in Monza last week, not having such a good time of it back in 17th, but I'm sure he'll be pushing to get there. As we said before, it's always a hard track. It's an easy track to invalidate, so it's hard to get a time down. So maybe that 120 is just the banker, and we'll get to see his real pace. We see Connor just starting his fast lap now. All about risk reward, I feel, on this final lap, particularly this first corner. How well do you hook it in? There, he hasn't invalidated yet, and I'll just keep an eye on that timing board as we go into the first sector, see if he's up or down on his sector time. He'll want to see purples across the board as that DRS flap opens up there. He's down, but he's pretty much on par, minus 0.097, so he is going to have to find some time, particularly in this middle sector and last sector.
I'm at the back watching 38, who's the only person yet to set a time. He's just about to come through and set one any second now.
Excellent. Well, we won't be able to see his delta, but fingers crossed we'll be able to get a good idea and see how far he can go up the track. Just on board here with Connor, who seems to have that car well and firmly planted there. Goes into that lovely roller coaster section, up and down, and that's purple through the middle sector. He'll be happy with that. Now all he has to do is keep it together. How skinny is that car? How well can you get that traction out of the final corner? As now it's pedal to the metal. Look at that ERS go down on 17%, 16%. You use up every last little ounce of energy. Is across the line. That's a 1:18.482. And that is pole position, provisional pole from the Red Bull man.
Excellent work from Connor there. My timing is caught up, so that's good news.
I'm just trying to have a look at other cars behind. Gab unfortunately invalidated his lap, so that will be the last one for him, so he will stay where he is. SPF Anzia also was down 6 seconds on his lap, so I don't know if we'll get another one in. I'm just on board with Rob Smith, who's also invalidated, unfortunately, so that's going to be another person who keeps it safe. B17 now. He's down a little on his original time. Let's see if he can make anything up in this final sector. Yeah, so he's down by 1.187 seconds, so I don't think it's going to be improvement on him. Those softs 2 laps old. So at the moment, if I'm Connor, thinking that my pole position is safe. Fire Rooster now. And 0.2, let's see what he can do as he crosses the line. Going to make up any places. Up into 9th place with a 1:18.9. Excellent work there, but it isn't going to trouble the man up to the top. I don't think there's anybody left on track apart from Back Mazo, who up into 14th place. His 4-lap old softs probably feeling every bit of it at the moment, so did a good job to get round in that time. And yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, Ant Stoko improved very significantly, but not by enough. And 38, I missed it, but I believe he must have invalidated because he was on a lap and then it came up as no time. So those guys, so the back 4 remain the back 4, unfortunately.
It's a shame, but yeah, let's wrap up quali then, and I will take you through the grid that we're going to have for Tier 3 here tonight. So we've got the Red Bull man and our championship leader Connor on top in first place. We've got Jackster in the Mercedes in second. Panizia in the AlphaTauri in third, Rob Smith in McLaren in fourth, Night Shadow in fifth in the Aston Martin, B17 in the Merc in sixth, Melvin in seventh in the Ferrari, Scratch in eighth, Fire Rooster in ninth, Donny in 10th. Then we've got Baby Hornet 11th, Ty Clear 12th, Ghost Rider 13th, Back Mazo 14th, RFC Danny 15th, Mindful Wasp in the McLaren in 16th, Ant Stoke in the Haas, and then we've got the three at the bottom who are unfortunately unable to set a time. So that's Boothie, 38, and Mutts Nuts. So out of that field, have you got any predictions for tonight? Anybody you want to watch out for?
That's a very competitive top 10, isn't it?
Yes.
I've got to say, I mean, Connor's run of form is difficult to see past, and I know that he rather fancies his chances around here, usually, doesn't he? So it's hard to see beyond that, but pressure is on, because obviously it's, I would say it's probably an easier track to chase at than to lead. It's one of those ones where when you're setting the pace, it's hard to kind of ensure you're getting all those lines right. There's a lot of technical corners in this one, isn't there? So sometimes it can be easier to follow a car through some of the corners here, just because you can relax a little bit.
Yes, I agree. It's that picking. They have to pick the line for you rather than you. But there's nothing worse. You have the feeling where you just follow another car through a line, and then too late you realise they've got it wrong, which means you're wrong. So it's always a bit of a risky strategy to do that. As we just watch our lovely mechanics throw their arms out to the side and T-pose as we wait for all the players to load in. There we are. Fingers crossed we won't have the same technical issues as we go around for the formation lap. So let's just get all the details up. Let's see what tyres we've got for our strategy here. We've got Connor and Jackster on the hards, SPF with the mediums, and then a good mix down the field. What do you think's the best tyre to start on here?
Probably the hard. That week, I actually think I might have raced 4 times around this track that week.
Blimey, glutton for punishment.
And I think 2 of them were wet or mixed conditions, and then I did 1 on mediums and 1 on hards as a starting tyre, and pretty sure the hard overall was the better solution, because you've got more of an array of options later in the race with safety cars, because I found the tyre wear was quite minimal, man.
Yeah, you can. As Colin goes a bit rallying there. Sorry, I don't know if he just looked away from the screen a little bit. just went through the boards. Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. You can seem to take the tyres quite long, and I think we even saw a couple of strategies where people took the hards and then took the softs right at the end to try and get a bit more pressure, particularly if it's a safety car. You can do that round here.
Carl tried to do that, didn't he? But I think it worked quite poorly for him. He ended up losing quite a bit of time overall. Just looking, 38 has actually left the session, and his car is driving around as a ghost. Oh,
okay. I thought it said he'd rejoined. Fingers crossed he'll be able to get back in and that he won't be kicked out the formation lap, because that's talking about improvements we'd like to see for F1 23. More stable lobbies, please, Codemasters. I know it's a eternal bugbear of all racing games, but if we get some stability, it would make our lives an awful lot easier, because a lot of people spend a lot of time on this.
It's almost like people practice, and then the lobby goes completely schizoid and you have to run it a month later.
Exactly. Yeah, so fingers crossed we've got there. I'm going to turn the UI off here, so we've got such a nice view of the starting grid and all 5 lights. So seeing the last car settle into the background there. See the nerves just starting to jangle now as they line up for the start of the Portuguese Grand Prix. Here we go. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. Hold. And it's away. Connor's got a good start there. The Mercedes, I think, maybe a little bit. That's an excellent start from the AlphaTauri on the mediums. And no, it's the Merc who's got the run on Connor as he head out into the first corner. Connor's going to go around the outside. He's pushed off the track. But it's the Mercedes of Jackster who's into the lead. We've got AlphaTauri round there in the background. There's a little bit of chaos as they all filter through. Let's see what happens as we get the timing screen back on board. We just put up the details there of the position change. We've got B17 had an excellent start. The AlphaTauri, there's a little bit of a car park there as we go down into the corner, into the hairpin. People tripping up over each other. And that's an excellent start from Jackster.
A virtual safety car.
Virtually, yeah. Is that 38 to... Oh, yeah. Looks like he's lost a lot of front wing, and that's him out of the session, I'm afraid. So he's left, but it is just a virtual for now. We won't see Bert Mylander out yet, so time for everybody just to regroup and see how they've done. Looking at the winners and losers out of that, Ant Stoke, excellent start. He's made up, 6 places, up from 17th into 11th, and unfortunately our big losers will be SPF in the AlphaTauri, who's down 3, and Donny, who's down 9. I don't know if that was a little incident between him and the Ferrari in the first corner, but he certainly hasn't come out of that any well. The virtual safety car. Sorry, go ahead.
I was actually watching the back of the field. I didn't see any obvious contact. All I saw was Donny going backwards on the inside of turn 2.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, we'll wait to find out, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash later. Stewards chat always open for your opinions. Not opinions, give us the facts and we'll decide what's happened there. But as we go back racing, we've got Jackster on the hards, Connor about half a second behind him. Now, we've talked about how difficult it is to pass around here. You really don't want to lose that toe from the car in front, do you? Because if you do, that main straight suddenly becomes a place where that gap just opens up and up and up until you just can't catch up anymore.
Yeah, and it's again, it's another reason why you want to make sure you've got a stable enough car to always be able to stay with the car in front of you, because it actually is a corner where you really notice the downforce from what's following as well.
There's a lot of battles going on, but the car that's looking the raciest here is Ant Stoke, who is all over the back of Ghost Rider. Didn't have the best qualifying, as we said, but we know how quick he is. He was maybe felt that he deserved the win in Monza. It was just late safety cars that messed up his strategy. So let's see what he can do.
From 5th down to 8th as well at the moment.
Oh, let's have a look. That's Night Shadow as well, isn't it? Yeah, let's go on board with Gav here. Always interested to see what his top speed is. I was going to keep an eye on the dash if you're very eager-eyed. I don't keep the telemetry up, but we can keep an eye on how quick he's going. Up over 200 miles an hour. He hasn't got the run on the car in front, though. Seems fairly too sensible for Gav, that, isn't it? Because he isn't going 217 or something mental. He has a little think about going up the inside, but 217 never really was enough space to remove there. He shut the gate there fairly well.
Scratch was pressuring him a lot through sector 3 because he's got the softer tyre advantage as well. So I think Gav's possibly got a little bit of a faster straight line setup, but obviously he's not as quick through the twisting last half of sector 2 and sector 3.
That's right, we've got Melvin and Fiery still side by side. I think Fiery still went for a move down to the hairpin, and they're just all side by side, and he's managed to get it done. But Melvin just doesn't look like he wants to give up behind as they go into this up and down roller coaster section. There's a yellow right at the back there. Unfortunately, I think Ant Stoke, who was having a good race, just unable to keep it on the track. They're back down into 18th. It seems like a massive car park behind Rob Smith as well. Let's go on board with this as we've got B17 Night Shadow all over the back, and it does look as if those medium tyre runners like B17 just got a slightly better drive out of those corners.
Something's happened to Panizza at some point as well, because I hadn't noticed, but he's suddenly lost a lot of places. He's suddenly right back with his teammate.
Oh yes, Josh, he's down in P15. Fingers crossed he can get it done, as I'm just on board with B17. He's got the DRS, of course, that's available now. Rob Smith doesn't, and that's a very textbook move, but Rob Smith's going to make the move back as he was thinking about it, but you can't quite get it done. If you don't have the pace, you're not going to be able, unless you're side by side, there's no point making a move into turns 3 or 4. So you go down to the hairpin. Sorry, this camera angle is rubbish. There's all got to the left hand side looking back there. You see the Alpha Tower, sorry, the Alpha Alfa Romeo and Night Shadow. That was a big lunge from scratch, but the space was there, and he gets it done up into P5.
That's an epic battle happening there. There's literally 6 or 7 cars involved in that fight.
Yeah, Gav
just all over each other.
Yeah, Gav doesn't want to give it up, and they were side by side with P8. He thinks better of it now and says, "Okay, matey, you can have that place. I'm the hards, you're on the mediums. Yours are going to run out soon. You can play the waiting game round here." And I think when you choose to take your pit stop, and if you can do an undercut or an overcut, there's an awful lot of tactics in this race. You need to maximise everything you can right here.
The tyre life of both is actually really good. It's just that the medium is obviously faster.
Yes.
Where the medium will do almost as far as the hard will do, really, but it just it won't. It obviously won't perform quite as well at the end of the flight, but actually. Oh, in fact, here comes Gav. He's looking at Scratch.
It was, but that's just. Sorry, there's something about a car being in the slipstream, and then that little lunge out, that little look to say, "I'm here." Just a reminder that next lap he might have to move. I love it, and if we know anything about Gav, it's that he's not shy or retiring. He is not afraid to let you know that he is there and is willing to have a bit of a scrap. This field...
It's all of the mind games, isn't it, as well?
Yes, it is.
Showing your presence.
I'm having a look at this field now. Usually you see like maybe 1 or 2 gaps of 2 seconds open up. Look at that, from first all the way down to 9th. I know Rob Smith, the gap's just gone up to about 1.1 now, but this is a tightly packed field. You can't afford to make a single mistake or you will find yourself in amongst the pack, and it's great to see this wheel-to-wheel racing.
It is. I think Baby Hornet's looking pretty racy behind Melvin right now as well. He's looking like he might be interested in having a pop any time soon if he gets close enough to the. He's not going to quite be close enough to get much of a DRS advantage out of that because he is part of the train. He was just very, very fast looking behind him for a second there.
Yeah, the car I'm staying on board with, I was on board with Scratch because I thought maybe he was going to be the one to make a move on Rob Smith, who doesn't have the DRS, but it's Gav actually who's going round the outside. They're going to be side by side into turn 1. You've got to be so careful to give enough room. Gav's on the runoff there, but he's keeping them side by side. A little bit of contact there, but he's gone the long way round on hard tyres, and that's it. Into turn 4, Gav up into P5, and there's a spin!
Yeah, that was Scratch fighting behind him.
Was there any contact at all? I don't know, I couldn't see from my camera angle.
No,
but
it looked like he just over-exuberant on the gas, unfortunately, coming out of turn 4.
That's what that corner does to you. You can't push, you're always hanging on for dear life, aren't you? And yeah, that's a shame.
He didn't end up in the wall, I don't think. Somehow he managed to stay out of it, from what I can see. No damage.
That's good. It's back to P13, so yeah, he'll have a bit of a scrap on his hands, but he knows he's got the pace. I'm going to stay on board then. We've got a very tight battle up the top here. P17 on the mediums, those first 2 on the hards. He's all over the back of Connor. What would you do in this situation? Do you let the medium runner go, or do you just try and keep track position?
Depends how difficult that is to do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That sounds like a glib answer, but it's not supposed to. Just in terms of sometimes you find that actually you can actually manage your race quite nicely by just sitting behind somebody and following them. And there's actually no real need to. Oh, did you see Jackson lose it then?
Oh no, I didn't. Sorry, I was on board with Night Shadow, who was making the move on Rob Smith. Very textbook. How you just want to do it with lots of space into turn 1. They're making the move well before.
Right on the back of him. Connor is now right on top of him.
Let's see, is Connor going to make a move as we head down to this spot? No, Connor's been very sensible. Gosh, it was B17 who had to get out of the way as Connor seemed to break. I don't know what it was a little bit earlier, and that's to go Gav in. This train that was opening up, I was saying there was a gap of about 1 second between the top 3 and Rob Smith. That's come right down now with small mistakes from the Mercedes driver up front. And this P17 was on board and he's gone round. That's into P8 now for him. And again, this track, it shows. I was talking about how important consistency is as well as pace. You've seen just a couple of small mistakes on those tricky corners. And yeah, you're suddenly back down in 9th, 10th, and you feel that the race is over, at least for now. You just have to reset. Oh, we've got a DNF. That's Donny. And is that going to bring out... That's going to bring out a safety car.
I can't see a stationary car on track.
There is one. I'm going to go on board.
Yes, there is. Yeah. That's coming up the hill, isn't it?
It is. That's odd. I don't know if there was contact there. It's not a usual place where you would expect to see...
It's a very odd place to go.
Okay.
I suppose you could lose it onto the grass and end up in the barrier on the right-hand side, but...
You know, if he didn't, well, hey, maybe we'll be seeing that in the stewards chat later. So, as the field starts to settle out, we start to see a couple of runners come into the pits. We've got B17 and Scratch, the 2 people who of course, had their little moments, were up the top and made little mistakes. So they've gone for the free pit stop. D17 onto the hards. Let's see what Scratch, if he does the same. If you got to hards now, do you reckon that you can make it towards the end of the race? That's what, 25 laps?
I thought so. Yeah, I mean, especially with a bit of safety car running as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I seem to recall people. Well, yeah, I mean, we were talking about Carl, weren't we, doing his hard soft strategy. I'm sure he did about 25 laps on his set of cards, if I remember correctly.
Excellent. Okay, that's good to know. What have we got? We'll just pop on YouTube for a moment. Let's see if we've got any messages in the chat.
Got lots of people saying hello. So hello to Mark Denison. There's B17 for podium from Steve Jarman there.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think that free pit stop, if nobody else at the top of the field decides to dip in now, I think the leaders were past the pit stop when the safety car came out. It's going to be really interesting who decides to pit and who doesn't. But if you're on the mediums, I think it gives you that leverage to go onto the hards now. If you're on the hards, it's way too long to take the mediums to the end, right? I don't think they would last 25 laps.
I don't think they'd be a lot of fun. I mean, what I found with the tyre here is it wasn't really that they became difficult to control. It was just that they got slow. But if I was on a set of mediums, I definitely would be putting hards on. I don't think I'd be staying out on the mediums at this stage. Because those mediums are only going to be comfortably still probably, I think about 15 or 16 laps. They start to go off a bit noticeably.
Yeah. Well, we've got Fire Rooster, RFC Danny and Ty Clear doing the Lando Norris strategy of saying, no, I'm not going to listen to my race engineer on the pit wall. I know what's best for me. I'm going to stick on those mediums. Let's see if it pays off in the long run. As we all settle down here, I think you were talking about the new game, F1 23, and these games, right, they come out yearly. They're on a very different release cycle to something like Gran Turismo, let's say, pulling a random racing game out of the air, one that I've enjoyed for a while, that was years in development. If you could get the F1 team, sit them down, Codemasters, and say, look, take 2-3 years out and come back with some real improvements, like build this game from the ground up again, what would you like to see in your dream F1 game in the future?
A functioning flag system would be nice.
What, just like yellows and reds?
Well, yellows where, it actually works like it's supposed to work, where when it says, pass the car in front of you, you can pass the car in front of you rather than having to ignore the thing that tells you to do something on the screen. I mean, that's pretty dense, isn't it? The game literally is programmed to tell you to do a thing that it doesn't allow you to do.
Yes, that is...
But yeah, I mean, fun enough. I mean, there's quite a few things really. It would be nice if when you're playing your My Team mode, that when you upgrade your car, you get physical changes to the look of it.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, to have more of a different chassis types and stuff like that. We might come back to this conversation if we've got another safety car, because they are ready to go. We've got on board with Jackster here as the safety car makes its way into the pit stop. Now, when is he going to go? Famously, I remember the first race we had here, you never know when to go. He's gone then. He seems to have caught Connor napping a little bit. That gap just extending, was it 0.5? It's now up to 0.6.
Gap is coming at Connor now.
Let's have a look. Yeah, he's distance Rob Smith behind, but nobody's going to make that big lunge yet. Remember, we will have one lap here before the DRS is available. Again, thinking about it, just a little bit. I think he gets on the curve.
Just cars everywhere behind.
Oh god, oh yes, there's loads of keeping on board with Fire Rooster and Melvin, who I'm not quite sure what happened there. Fire Rooster on the mediums, Melvin on the hards. Is he going to think about it? No, he doesn't. Maybe Hornet and the other Aston Martin. Good race for them so far. In third and sixth. Who's that? That's a Red Bull and Baby Hornet up the inside. Where did he come from? Oh, he's in a big moment into turn number 8. You don't want to put any throttle on you there, mate, but... just seemed to... He did, but he just sort of stuck it on the apex and there was nothing RFC Danny could do. So, yeah, a little bit of a shake-up at the start after that safety car restart.
Yeah, it was Fire Rooster making the moves, actually. Just as you were saying that no one at the front was making that big move into turn 1, he was making a big move into turn 1 on Baby Hornet and went flying up his inside and stuck himself between 3 other cars.
Excellent to see. And also, I don't know what happened. Rob Smith was all the way up in 3rd. He's down to 11th, so I don't know if he's had a slight moment or a bit of a tap. But yeah, not a great start for the McLaren drivers, who find themselves down in 10th and 11th. We stay on board here with RFC Danny as he's looking to make a move on Baby Hornet well before turn 1. And boy, does he get it done. Just parks it there and says, thank you very much. That will be P6 for me. But again, you see how fighty those cars are behind. There's going to be a little bit of a gap forming between 3rd and 4th there. But Jackson will be... Sorry, go ahead.
So there's a big fight between the 2 Alpha Tauris and the 2 Alfa Romeos. There's an Alpha bash at the back.
Yeah. Yes, having a look at that now. It's Scratch and Stoke who... There we know, and Stoke's got the pace.
That's an exciting place to try to pass.
It is. Oh goodness me, they're going side by side in turn 8. There's a little bit of contact. How anybody hasn't gone round there, I don't know. I'm going to stay on board with that Mesa. It's a really good view of it. It was a very slow Haas, and the Alpha Tauri behind had to make avoiding action to get out of that one. So Ant Stoke is the big loser there. He's gone down into 18th place as it just sort of filters out. We've got Scratch, Buck Meso, Canavia tight clear somehow, has been able to keep his nose clean. And Stoke is now... Oh!
I just watched Benitza spin into the side of Ant Stoke there, unfortunately.
Yes, no, I saw that. Nothing malicious in that. I think it's just something that happened. But right up at the front, I've just caught the end of it. Gav up into 2nd place. DRS now available, of course, and we all know how skinny Gav likes to set his wing. It just meant that Connor was a bit of a sitting duck on that straight. So, yeah, Gav having a great race up into 2nd place now.
Yeah, sorry we missed that, Gav, but you get plenty of screen time, so I'm sure you won't be too worried about it.
Let's see where we are. Just as this race sort of once again after a safety car, it takes a few moments for the field just to settle out and see where those gaps in racing are. Those hard tyres will be well rubbered in. People should be familiar with how grippy they are and where the traction is on the track. But without that sort of tyre difference now, I think those mediums will probably be running as well as the hards now as we start to get into the zone. Oh, we've got Ant Stoke. Is that a DNF? Trying to see where he's gone. Gosh, he's gone right into... I don't know if he got turn 8 completely wrong, but he's gone into the wall, and that's brought out our 2nd safety car of the night.
That's... I'm guessing he's probably gone off backwards on the exit curb in that sharp right-hander, hasn't he? Well, yeah, I don't think I've seen anybody retire there either, but there we go.
No,
so just after saying that we weren't going to get many safety cars tonight, we've had an average of 1 every 5 laps.
It's been eventful, to say the least. Tier 3 will always surprise you. Now we see those medium runners heading to the pits. I think it was a no-brainer that if you were still stuck on those yet, now's the time to get off. So Fire Rooster and RFC Danny into the pits. Let's just pop on board, but I don't think we will see anything other than a fresh set of those white-rimmed hard tyres popping onto the cars. There we go, as they filter out. That will be down the field, but they'll be safe in the knowledge that they have their pit stop done, unlike the top 10, all of which have stayed out for now.
But they have dropped behind all the guys that stopped under the previous safety car.
Yes.
So
yeah.
5 laps on those hards isn't a massive wear difference really. So they've lost out a little bit, arguably. I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out in the very, very final stages of the race. But yeah, I mean, the funny thing was, before the safety car came out, I was about to say that actually the warm-up cycle on the hards on this track is horrible.
Okay.
After the safety car, they are nasty to get warmed up. They just don't want to get back. I found it was probably 3 or 4 laps before they started really coming up to a comfortable temperature. Yeah. But yeah, whereas the mediums seem to switch on very quickly here.
Well, the only driver who's decided to go for those mediums that excuse me, those mediums that turn on so quickly is Ty Clear, who's in 17th, who maybe thinks, I'm last, I need a bit of extra pace, and I can go a little bit funky with my strategy, so I'll be interested to see how he does at the safety car restart.
I think that could work. yeah, I mean, once the safety car comes back in to do lap 15, so he's going to have 18 laps to the end. That's not an unreasonable amount of distance on a set of mediums.
No, and I think it's a good challenge as well. I think you always want to be the one when you're at the back of the field. You want to be doing something different, right? That's the place where you can take those risks and try and get a strategy call. Right. So we're going to have another lap of safety car around here. So I'll move the conversation.
Back to the previous conversation then, what would your go-to items be to add to your F1 26 shopping list?
So, for me, the one thing that I really enjoy, and I think maybe it's just because I was playing Gran Turismo over the weekend, but one of the features I think is the best is their wet weather technology, specifically the way that you get a line forming. Right, so when you're on Spa or something, the rain comes down and you've got a little meter in the bottom left-hand corner that says either if it's good enough for dries, intermediates, or wets, and it varies. But as the rain stops and you're on those wets or those inters, that line comes down, and you get to a point where you'll see a dry line form, and if you want to take the risk, you can pop on a pair of slicks, stick to that line, and you'll go quick. But put a tyre over that line and you'll lose the back end and spin, and you don't have that. The F1 game seems to be like we have applied a sheet of ice over the track, which means no slicks, or yes, you can use inters now, and that's not realistic. So I would like to have a little bit of that risk reward, somebody doing a Jensen button where they go, yes, I've got the precision to go round and know that I can keep in between this dry line to make the most out of it.
The funny thing is, I remember that from the early F1 games, they used to get a dry line, which you could use faster.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when I say early, I mean like PS1.
Yep.
So I'm sure they could do it.
Exactly. I'm not asking for much. I know these things are hard. Video games are hard to develop, and churning out one a year is very difficult. But as we're going on about the new game, the game that's about to come out, let's focus on the F1 22, because we are about to go racing again, and it is Jackster, who will once again be leading us away. Second time, always think it's a little bit trickier second time. You've tricked somebody once before, think you've got an idea of where you're going, and now he's put the pedal down. And he's caught Gav napping just a little bit. He's got about 0.2 there. As we head back, looking down the rest of the grid, I can't see anybody closing very well apart from Mindful Wasp, and don't jump on board with Mindful Wasp, who's all over the back of Nuts. He's not quite a car length alongside. Musnuts goes very wide, and he's the one to make the move into turn 1. That's an excellent start there from the McLaren driver.
Oh, there's an Alfa Romeo off in the background as well. That was Scratch again, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a shame. Bit of a rough start. He's the one who went on the slight old strategy with the one to make the most. Oh,
back Mezzo and Baldy have just gone off together, attached by the wheels, unfortunately.
Eek, was that round the outside of turn 4, which is difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't see the start of it. I just saw the two cars locked together slightly off into the back.
And apologies, because we were focusing on action at the back, but we have a new race leader. I don't know where he got it done. He didn't get it done into turn 1, but at some point we've got Gav in the Aston Martin leading this race. Jackster following behind, and Connor. These three look like they're in for an absolutely titanic battle tonight. Neither of them wanting to really give an inch of room on the track.
No, they're all on the same tyre strategy. It is a hard track to kind of open up a gap at as well, actually. This DRS zone that they're just entering now does make a lot of difference to your overall lap time, it's got to be said. Obviously no DRS just yet, we've got another lap of that, another lap before we start together. But it's kind of what I was saying at the start, really. It's possibly a track where it's easier to not be the lead car.
Yeah, totally. Well, they seem to be taking it in turns. We've had, Jackster has been leading this race, and Connor seemed happy in second place, but I don't know if we'll be so happy with third, because there's a little bit of a gap to Melvin. And Mindful Wasp, a little shout out to him. It's been really impressive how well he's gone from this race start. How many positions has he made up? Actually, let's have a look.
Whilst you're looking at that, I've just mentioned that actually Connor, I think, is pacing himself because he's using a lot less of his priorities.
Excellent. Yeah, and that is so important around here. You want it in the tank, don't you, for all those final laps, so you can blast past when it matters most. Yeah, I was just having a look at that. Mindful Wasp up 11th places, so started down in 16th. He's slowly been making his way through the field, so keep that up, and that's potential driver of the day material there. But let's go back. Let's get the tyres back on. And
just looking at RFC Danny on his. He's in an interesting position, isn't he?
What,
3 lap old hards. With stop out of the way.
Yes, he's the one. He'll be the one to watch about like where he is compared when those race leaders come in. If there isn't another safety car here, then he will be in the driving seat, and he'll want to just, as I always say, throw a rope out and just lasso it around Booty there. You do not want to lose that DRS. Yellow in sector 1. Alfa Romeo's having a bit of a torrid time, it looks like, as they're back in 14th and 15th. Laser, I think, going off there.
I'm guessing Baldy must have picked up damage in that incident we were talking about earlier, because he's been in and put it onto softs.
Ooh, okay. I'll be praying for another safety car then, because I don't think those are going to go to the end.
No, unfortunately not. But I would say, I mean, the thing is, you kind of have to work it by the law of averages, don't you? I mean, when you're looking at how many safety cars you've had, and how much of the race you've got left to run, you can kind of make a fairly educated guess whether there's likely to be another one.
Yes, so I'm just going to go up to the battle up the front here. We've got...
What's happening there?
Oh gosh, got in the back of Jackster. Round there. I don't... Ooh.
It looked like the Aston slowed massively. Jackster reacted to it, and Connor was caught out.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what happened then. That was very bizarre. I mean, as I flipped to it, Gav seemed to be very struck. I don't know whether maybe he had a part spin or something on the way out of the penalty corner.
Maybe. I mean, I've seen Gav is the master of the mind game. My boss go for a big lunge down there on Melvin, makes the move but can't slow it down, and that's going to be Melvin just saying, no, I'll stick to the racing line, mate, and I'll take that place back. And he's got the ERS, so I don't think Mindful. I'm going to stick on board, see if he goes for another move down the inside here. Far too far behind, so ambitious move there. I'm gonna spin my own tail, because I've seen Gav do this before at places like Abu Dhabi. He likes to slow down before that DRS zone is activated, because I was thinking Jax is just going to take him on the straight, so I think he was trying to do a bit of a Max Verstappen at Saudi Arabia type of deal, but of course that just bunches the field up together, and I can see why Connor might not have expected it if that was the case, but yeah.
I can't see any wing damage on Connor's car.
Thankfully.
He's just got a penalty, actually. He could possibly have sort of minor wing damage, which obviously doesn't show visibly.
Yeah.
But it does show up as sort of yellow on your screen, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. But what that contact has meant is that Gav's now got a little bit of a safety net for him. 1.7 in front of Jackster. Those two behind might have to work together and be a little bit smart, helping each other out with the DRS if they want to catch up to that Aston Martin up ahead. I'm going to keep on board with Mindful Wasp, who's gone very wide in turn 1. That's actually opened up for Baby Hornet to go down the inside. Mindful Wasp very racy tonight as they go side by side in turn 4. We've seen a few dramas here tonight. You're going to be so careful through there. They've both managed to keep it together. And it was Baby Hornet, I think, is going to, yes, he's going to keep 5th place. And that's just let Nuts as those 3 cars scrap it out in front of him. He's now got onto the back of that trend, so let's see what he can do.
So Connor is still sitting behind Jackster, conserving his car.
Mm-hmm.
Jackster is out of ERS. He is flashing for his life at the moment. He is going to be struggling to keep pace with Gav. If I was Connor at that stage, I think I would be looking to get past, because all that's going to happen now is that Jackson's going to start dropping away, surely. Yeah,
sometimes it's sensible to conservative, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and I think you're right. Now's the time to make the pass, spend a little bit of that ERS. You have to spend all of it, particularly if the guy in front has none, and you have the ERS. So I'm going to keep on board with Connor. Let's see what he does. The problem is he's got DRS, but only just. There's that gap up to a second now, so he's going to be nowhere near Baxter coming down into the first corner. So yeah, maybe was a little bit of damage we didn't see from that incident, because he's just not quite as quick as he once was.
He doesn't seem to be I mean, I've just watched a whole lap and he didn't seem to deploy any ERS at all in that lap, so he must have a master plan.
Arp. just seen a couple of those runners who were on the hards make their first pit stop. So that's Boothie and Melvin both coming back out onto the medium tyres. And like you said, there's quite a sizable gap now between them and people like RFC Danny and Fire Rooster, who are the ones who did that pit stop early to take those sets of hards to the end. So yeah, it's not, I know we're all about the top three at the moment, but with no other safety cars, we've got to look out for drivers like RFC Danny. I'm just going to change the gap. What's the gap to the leader? So 13 seconds between one Aston Martin and Night Shadow. This split strategy might work out well for the Aston Martin team, because one way it works, and if a safety car comes out, then the other way it could work for Gav. So yeah, good work from them. I don't know if they planned it like that, but it's certainly going to help them out in this race.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is that I was going to say people should be pitting around now, and literally they've started pitting as I started saying it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Here are our first non-pitted cars coming in to switch to the medium, presumably to go the rest of the race distance. The undercut does work here.
Ooh, excellent. Let's see what he's got. So we'll see the difference between Jackster and Connor, because Jackster went in that lap and is going to come out, he's going to filter out back behind Mesa, so he's going to come out in 11th place. Let's keep on Connor. Do you switch or twist? Where do you go out? Also, we just saw a lovely move there from Fire Rooster in the Alpine, make a move on Rob Smith. That tyre difference now 12 laps between those hard runners, and Rob Smith needs to pit. So Jacob in a very good position.
He's actually deploying like crazy around the current lap, so I think he is on his in lap right now.
It's hammer time. He's trying to use every last little bit of rubber on that tyre.
What's the Connor equivalent of hammer time?
Bottle time. I don't know. No, he doesn't want. He doesn't want that, does he? That's the exact opposite of what he wants. So yeah, no thoughts in the YouTube chat, please, on what Connor can use.
What is Connor's equivalent of hammer time?
Oh, and we've got it. Both the leaders, 1 and 2, into the pits now. I'm going to keep an eye on Ty Clear. Well, yeah, look at it. Ty Clear on the mediums, who we've said could go to the end. He's going to take quite a sizable lead, and it's who else was it? Look for RFC Danny. RFC Danny. He's made his pit stop as well, and he's got a sizable gap. These people who took the pit stop early, particularly under the second safety car, I think they're the ones who really benefited it.
Well, the gap didn't change at all in that pit stop. It's still 2 seconds between Gav and Connor. But Night Shadow has come out ahead of Backmezzo, and Connor has come out behind him. So Connor's actually now got a car between him and Gav.
I don't know if that works in his favour or not, because Gav, of course, has 6 seconds to scratch ahead, so he's going to have no ERS. If Connor can get on the back of Backmezzo and get a little bit of a tow, that's all he might need. But at the moment, it's Backmezzo who's being backed up to Gav, and he's within a second. So, yeah, not sure. Those tyres really taking, you said the mediums warm up a bit quicker, but it does seem that it's taking a little bit longer for Gav to get used to it. So go at the top there. Gosh, is there been contact? Rob Smith round there. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but he's in 4th, and I saw another car off there. As the positions change, it might be time for Rob Smith to duck into the pits. See if he does, because he's got a scratch all over his rear end. Yes, it is. So that's Rob Smith in. I think he'll be our last of our runners to pit. So we'll be looking for a quick 10-lash dash on the end of whatever tyres he chooses.
So the guys that just pitted now have obviously a bit of distance to make up on those guys in which is interesting. So looking at primarily, I mean, Ty Clair's going to be struggling on those mediums in a few laps' time, I suspect. But Fire Rooster and Danny are 8 seconds ahead? No, 7 seconds ahead of Gav. So we need to keep an eye on how that gap progresses as well, to see whether he can make it past on your pace.
Gav is the one who's the best of those new tyre runners, I would say, that ones who took their pit stop later. Backmezzo is holding up Connor, but we also didn't notice before, I've just got it now, but Jackster, who was running in second on the road, fell back behind, so yeah, pitting a bit earlier didn't work for him. He seems to have lost out to Connor, who's made the jump These two will be desperate to catch up to Night Shadow, but that gap now is already 3.5 seconds, so Gav has effectively doubled the lead that he did have when all of these three were running together at the start of the Grand Prix.
Sorry, I was just having a minor coughing fit there with my mic muted. Right,
No,
I am now. So, yeah, I was also just having a quick look at the lap times. Gav's best lap time is a second quicker than Connor's.
He's really pumping in. He was the fastest. Mindful Wasp, though, just going quick as well as Connor makes the move up into P6. But Mazo on those 16-lap-old hards. I think he's going to be a bit of a sitting duck now for the rest of the train. Now, Connor, it's time to spend what you can in that ERS and make that gap up to Gav. The big thing that we don't know is how quickly Gav is catching those cars in front, but he's going to catch up to Scratch and Danny and then Fire Rooster. The question is, how easily is he going to pass them? And can he do it?
He's catching them at the best part of a second a lap.
I think that would be enough, wouldn't you? But you only have to be caught up for like a lap or so behind one of them. As we've said, there's only really one overtaking zone around here. Could lose a second a lap or something, and that's how Connor can make up the time.
Yeah, so obviously Connor's fallen away, isn't he?
He has. He's lost out. Yeah, having back Mason being stuck behind him for a couple of laps has cost him, it seems, as Gav decided it was the time for, I don't know, Iron Brew time, whatever you want. There's a little tap there from Jackster and Baby Hornet, I think, maybe coming together. I was going on board with Jackster to see what he was going to do, hit back Mazo, but instead he's gone round and he's down into 12th place. So now maybe it's a chance for Mindful Wasp to be the person to challenge that group. He'll be the highest running medium runner. It's his chance to get back Mazo now, but Baby Hornet's all behind him as well, and he's got the DRS. That red light's flashing on the McLaren ahead of him. He's going to go around the outside of turn one. He keeps it together and he keeps it in the white lines. No invalidation there, but Mindful Wasp keeps the inside line. He knows exactly how wide his car is, where he wants to put it. Most excellent defence there from the McLaren driver.
So, Gav has spent a lot of his electrical energy catching up, and Connor is back on his tactic of not using it. So, I think there's still a race to come here, you know?
Oh, certainly. I wish I had my sort of Amazon graphic or whatever they've got down the bottom to see how quick Gav is catching that group in front. I mean, Gav will think he's certainly got the pace to win this. He was just upset by a safety car. Those drivers up front, Ty Clear, I've been really impressed by Ty Clear, by the way. I thought that those mediums would start to fall away a little bit quicker than they have. It seems to keep that gap pretty consistent between him and Jacob, who's in second place on 5. The other thing to point out is that, well, look at the drivers. Let's have a look at the penalties, actually. We'll see who's got the most. Yeah, it's just 3 seconds, really, apart from Back Mazer, who's on 6, and Mindful Wasp has picked up 5 somewhere along the line. But Gav, crucially, has 0 penalties, so let's see what he can do. He's going to stick on board with Mindful Wasp in 8th place, who is caught up to Back Mazo now, and yes, that tyre difference, I think, is starting to show. These Mindful Wasp is up into 7th place.
Yeah, I haven't really noticed that absolutely everybody's got penalties apart from Scratch and Night Shadow in the top 10 there. So there are a lot of changes going to happen post-race in this sense.
Who else? Sorry, no, go ahead.
Everyone's on 3 seconds apart from Mindful Wasp, who's got a 5 second penalty, and Back Mezzo, who's on 6.
Yeah, so that just really plays into Gav's hands, doesn't he? Not only is he pushing, I mean, obviously he wants to make the move, but he knows if he does that he's got that 3 second barrier over everybody else. As we see Ty Clear into the pits. Clearly those mediums have had enough. He doesn't want to risk it and go to the end. We can't see tyre wear, unfortunately, so that means we've got a new race leader.
So I think I would have been tempted to stick it out, to be honest with you, because that's going to cost him 20-25 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all a question of where he's going to come out. He's probably going to come back out behind the 2 Alpine drivers at least, so that's down into 12th place.
Quite a battle he's coming out behind there. I think it looked like just behind Baby Hornet there's several, there is a battle, there's 4 cars all battling in front of him, so
Yeah,
I think have to make some hard progress there.
Yeah, I think Backmazo is determined to take those hards all the way to the end. The only problem is he's just surrounded by drivers on much, much fresher mediums. It just means he's now at the stage where he's just getting swallowed up, and you want to get off that tyre, but you know if you get off that tyre, you fall back down into last place, so you've got to stick it out. It's an absolutely miserable feeling to know that you're stuck on the wrong strategy and you haven't even got space there. As I think we missed it as well, this is a habit we're having here, but Gav at some point has got up into third place, making the move on scratch. At least at Danny
at the top of the hill on that blind crest, he went around the outside, it was quite a move.
Oh, no wonder I wasn't watching it. Nobody makes a move around there, so well done, Gav. And he's getting to the time now where even if he stays where he is, he's nearly in the net lead of the race, and he probably needs to make the move on his teammate ahead just to make sure. But with that time in his back pocket, he'll just be pushing and pushing and pushing now to the end, and maybe it's time for Connor to get a move on and maybe spend a little bit of that ERS if he wants to finish on the podium tonight.
He's barely losing it. I mean, everybody in front of him is almost out of it, and he's got almost all of it. Now he's pressing the button. Maybe
it's going to have to be a last lap dash, because the laps are falling away at a rate of knots, and the only place really to overtake, I know we've not seen, as it were, that Gav making the move where he did. And he's either got to make ambitious moves or make sure that he can do it on that main straight, as he's approaching his Aston Martin teammate now. Less than half a second between them. You'd think he'd like to keep it nice and safe and just do this on the main straight with no dramas. He'll want to take maximum points possible for the Aston Martin team tonight. Let's see what he does as he lines up his teammate. As they hair round that last right-hander. We know Gav likes speed in a straight line. He's coming off a very promising result in Miami as well in our midweek race, clearly coming into a bit of form. He's lining him up. Is there going to be a move? No. Oh, no team orders there at Aston Martin then. Thought about it. Oh no, but no team orders needed because RFC Danny's spun round. No, that was maybe. I said how much I like that little look up the inside, and I don't know if that did put RFC Danny off, but yeah, that's meant that the Aston Martin has fallen back into fifth, and it's Connor up into fourth place. 4 seconds now behind the battle between Scratch and Night Shadow. Scratch, must be said, 21 lap old hards, 7th against 7 lap old mediums. He's not giving up one bit. He is sticking on to Gav like glue, and both of these, no time penalties at all. This could be for the race win if they can't catch up to if they catch up to Firelister.
Yeah, that gap seems to it's coming down slowly. It's not coming down as quickly as it was.
Yeah, what is the gap between what is the penalty? 5 seconds.
Is it a 3-second penalty, Jake?
3 second penalty, yes.
So it's a close call.
Yeah, Gav's going to have to get a little bit of a move on now, isn't he? If he wants to, what are we talking? Half a second a lap, maybe? On fire?
Yeah, I suspect that tyre performance is equalising now, isn't it? Between those two compounds, that's the other thing. Gav is, he's obviously driving his socks off. So yeah, the pressure is kind of on Jacob to maintain what he's doing. Has Jacob had a win in Tier 3?
Let's have a check. I had the championship up earlier, so let's have a little look. What's he driving? He's driving...
Oh, something's happened because Gav's just lost nearly a second.
Yeah, I was seeing that, but I don't think he's had a moment or anything. I think that car or the RS, something just isn't quite clicking like it used to. You said that he was putting in purple laps as he came out of the pits. And maybe he was just leaning on his tyres so much. He did a couple of too many qualifying laps, and now those tyres are just hanging on towards the end. But they're only 8 laps old. I wouldn't expect that they're sort of like red or orange.
Well, here's a little factoid that some people don't realise, is if you let your ERS drop below 10%, your car performance starts suffering massively, and his ERS has been dropping below 10% a lot.
Ah, right. Well, I was just having a look up our race leader at the moment, Fire Rooster, his results this season. had a DNF, ninth, and a DNF. So if he was to take the win here, it would go from from famine to feast tonight for him.
Well, I mean, Jacob has loads of pace. He has loads of pace. I mean, he's been very competitive in higher tiers. So I mean, he's definitely got the ability to lick the stamp and send it. So I mean, that gap is now stabilising at 5.5 seconds. So the pressure is now reversed. It's back on Gav.
So we've got action all up and down the field here as well, just to see the battles that are going on at the back. Got Mutts Nuts and Ghost Rider, two Alpine Mutts Nuts making the move into turn one, but those two, doesn't seem to be any team orders there as they're going round. We've got this train as well, Jackster, Melvin, Baby, Hornet, all those three scrapping it out for what would be the last point scoring positions. That's one to watch out for as well. But for the moment, I will go back on board. We said it was time for Connor to get a move on. He's clearly listening to us because now he's got Scratch in his sights. And as we head into the final 2 laps of the race, I think Connor needs to make the move on this straight if he has a hope of getting, if he wants a podium position.
Yeah, he's going to get 3 seconds away as well, isn't he? That's the problem.
Yeah, that is. He's going to have to.
He's entering the dying stages of this race, so he's making the move.
Oh no!
He spun!
He spun, and there's been contact between the two of them.
That looked completely unlucky as opposed to anything more than that. That's put RFC Danny back into third again. Yeah,
he seemed to make the move but have the overspeed, so didn't quite get the anchors out quick enough. Got out to the green stuff on the left-hand side, and the back end just went, and there was nothing he could do. So, unfortunately for Connor, he's going to have to scrap it out with the other Aston Martin of RFC Danny. That does mean that Scratch has lost out a little bit in that battle as well, being sort of caught up, and he's down into 5th place. So, yeah, as it stands, Scratch is going to want to keep that gap below 3 seconds if he wants to be one of our podium sitters tonight.
Gav is fighting back a little against this gap, but it's going to take a mistake now, I think.
Yeah, it is a huge gap. He's got to make up, 1.5 on the last lap? Let's see what the lap times are, actually. I'll put it up in the top right corner. So, Fire Rooster across at a 121. Night Shadow, 121. Yeah, they are sort of matching each other for pace. There's not much that Gav can do. He's going to have to take a far more sizable chunk out of there. I'm going to stay on board, though. This battle for 7th and 6th. Mindful Wasp on the Alpines that were battling it out all by themselves. This is sort of your final chance to run this final lap. You're not going to have this DRS zone again. And he makes it stick as the Alpines get very close to each other behind. I think there might have been contact, perhaps, because it's Ghost Rider who's gone round in Jackster up into 8th place now. See as everyone else filters behind. Baby Hornet up into 10th. It's Ghost Rider, unfortunately, who's the big loser there as he drops down into 12th position. Stick on board though with RFC Danny and Connor. They're the closest battle on track as we head there. That gap between Jacob and Gav stretching out even more now, up to 5.6 seconds. So I think that might be all she wrote. I'm going to stick on board with our race leader at the moment. Jacob, he came from nowhere, had a quiet race, made the pit stop at the right time, got to the lead, and since then he hasn't put a foot wrong as he mounts that final curb, and he's going to do a little wiggle across the line. That's P1 for Jacob in the Williams. Gav comes across the line in 2nd place. Let's see if Connor and RFC Danny, we're going to have a little drag race to the finish line. Yes, it's going to be Connor in 3rd, RFC Danny 4th. Scratch, unlucky there with that contact in the final few laps. He jumps up a place as he got no penalty, so he's up in the 4th. Mindful Wasp, let's going to see who's the penalty shakeout. So it's Jackster up into 6th. Excellent race from him. We'll talk about recovery drives as he comes across the line in 6th. Mutts Nuts in 7th. Melvin 8th. Mindful Wasp and Rob Smith, 2 McLarens in 9th and 10th. Baby Hornet down to 11th. Ghost Rider 12th as he finishes in the pits. Tie clear on the softs. That strategy unfortunately didn't quite work to the end. He lost out of the lead down into 13th place. It's going to be Boothie and the Haas in 14th. And then we've got Mazo in the Alfa Romeo coming across in 15th. And last but
Great
not least,
performance there from Mutts Nuts, who's jumped from 20th to 7th there.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, quali-ban, not doing, couldn't do anything qualifying, but he showed it all in the race. So, blimey, intriguing race, I think. Saw a lot of action up and down the field. The game's given driver of the day to RFC Danny. Who's your driver of the day, Martin?
I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna give it to our race winner. I don't think Jacob has had the best run of luck this season, so he's obviously capitalised where he could, and the pressure was really on him for the last quarter of that race, and he managed to hold his nerve.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. Excellent sort of way that you can perform strategy. Took the risk, pitting a little earlier than you should do under the safety car, but that really paid off. And then he was just able to keep the gap, and he rightfully celebrates on the podium. So that's a wonderful first place for Jacob Gav, covering him champagne there. I think Gav will be happy with the second place. Maybe would have wanted
he's had
to
a
take
great
the
race
win.
as well. To be fair, he's not done anything wrong. Safety car probably cost him a little bit there.
Yeah, and Connor might look back at that and think what might have been, but he could be happy to have a good third place. So let's take you down these provisional standings and how they sit after a hectic race here at Portugal. So we've got Fire Rooster in first, Night Shadow Gav in second, Connor in third, Scratch in fourth, RFC Danny in fifth, Daxter in sixth, Mutsnut seventh, Melvin eighth, Mindful Wasp ninth, Rob Smith in 10th, Baby Hornet in 11th, Ghost Rider in 12th, Ty Clear 13th, Boothy 14th, D17 15th, Black Mazo 16th, and then we've got our four non-finishers, which were Fanazia 38th, Ant Stoke and Donny. Well, if you like that, then you'll be happy to know that we're going to do it all again in about 25 minutes time for our Tier 4 race, where they will be taking on the Lumps and Bumps of Portugal. It's been great to have you all with me, and it's been great to have you with me here as well, Martin. Thanks for the company tonight.
It's been nice to spend some time in such refined company.
Thank you. I don't know who else you were listening to as you heard me on comms, but grateful for that. Thank you very much. So, yes, take care everyone, and we will see you all very soon. Good night.
See you later.